Saints, Buccaneers, Falcons are in a three-way tie in the NFC South. Who wins the division? This is Undisputed with Skip Bayless, Michael Irvin, Keyshawn Johnson. Obviously, before the season, I thought the Saints were far and away the best team in the NFC South, right? Best roster, best quarterback, best defense, yada, yada, yada. Fast forward all the way to week 15 of the NFL season, and we are in a bit of a triple threat match here. Okay, WrestleMania style triple threat ladder match. Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, and Desmond Ridder. If I had to pick right now who would win the South, I still think I would lean the Saints because of the game in the Superdome against the Falcons. But the team that scares me is the Buccaneers. I'm not going to lie. The team that scares me the most is the Bucs. Why? Because with the backs against the wall, chips on the table, whatever metaphor you want to use, who do I trust? Derek Carr, Desmond Ridder, or Baker Mayfield? Ladies and gentlemen, as I sit here and tell you this, I trust Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield would be the quarterback. If I could pick any of the three, I would pick Baker Mayfield. Now, I wouldn't pick him to build a franchise around. I wouldn't pick him to take me to a Super Bowl, whatever. But if I have to win a game-winning drive, 2-minute drill, whatever, I want Baker. That's who I want. I don't trust Carr. I don't trust Ridder. I don't trust them during the season, much less whenever it's this much of a pressure-packed situation. So I still think it's going to be the Saints, but the Buccaneers scare me to death, especially because we have to go play the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers dog walked us at home, and now we have to go play them. So it is a tight race. It is a triple threat match. Let's hear what the Undisputed fellas have to say.
Are you sticking with the Saints to win this division at this point?
Man, I'm not going against it. When I look at the next 4 games, you got the Giants.
By the way, we have a video on the channel. Keyshawn Johnson, before the season, picked the Saints to win the Super Bowl, or to go to the Super Bowl, one of the two. But they were in the Super Bowl. They were his surprise team. He was right there with me. We got tricked. We got bamboozled by the Saints.
You got the Rams on a short week on Thursday night. Some of those players that are injured will be coming back, including my nephew, hopefully. They go to the Bucs, they end up with the Falcons. And when I look at the Buccaneers, they got the Panthers. They got the Packers, the Jags, and the Saints. That's a little harder. A little harder stretch.
The second 2 at home, but
And when I look at the Falcons, they got an easier kind of, to me, the Panthers, the Colts, the Bears. Then they go to the Saints.
See, I would say out of those 3, I would say the Falcons have the hardest schedule because they have to go to New Orleans, and Bears are playing better. Colts are no pushover either. The Buccaneers, the game is the Jaguars game, obviously. Okay, if they could somehow, Skip Bayless's posture here is absolutely out of control. Someone get him one of those braces that holds your back up. My God. But the Jaguars game, if the Buccaneers could win that game, and the Jaguars are not playing good right now. Okay, so the Buccaneers, that's their Super Bowl, pretty much. If they lose to them, obviously they have to beat the Saints at home. But if they win that game against Jacksonville, you talk about being the driver's seat.
Last 2 are on the...
And the Rams are playing good football right now. We have to play the Rams in Los Angeles on short rest. We have to play the Giants Sunday, then travel to Los Angeles and play the Rams, who are playing good football right now. Woo.
Bro, so I think the Saints have the easier path looking at their schedule, the remaining portion of the schedule. So, yeah, I'm still picking them.
Okay.
I am.
And I look at it, and the Saints, I look at this and I say, just think about if a team had to go play the Saints in the playoffs. Going to the Saints is hard. That's a hard place to play. I think it's the most difficult place in the whole NFL to play. But I can handle those players. I even think about the other side, Tampa, going to Tampa.
All 3 teams are bad. All 3 teams are not going to make any noise in the playoffs. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking strictly about who's going to win the division, who's going to get in, who's going to be the divisional representative.
You feel comfortable with that. And those older guys, they're still trying to hold on to the glory of that Super Bowl. You can handle those players. Going to Atlanta, those young dudes in Atlanta is a whole different group. Those other groups, Atlanta Saints and Tampa, a little older. But Atlanta is a young football team that's very talented and right now learning how to win.
I think you have. Let's look at the Falcons schedule here. So I think with all three teams, you virtually have the exact same thing in all three teams. And the schedules, I would even say, are pretty similar as far as like which one's the easiest. The three teams match up, or if you break them down, they're pretty much the same, like rating wise. If the Falcons are the 21st best team in the NFL, Saints are probably the 20th. Bucks, like they're right there. They're bunched together. And then if you look at the schedule, is those four games that much easier than the Giants, Rams, Bucks, and Falcons? You can kind of rotate all the variables with these three teams. It's just who's going to screw up because they play each other, right? They all play each other. Well, the Buccaneers and Falcons don't, but like it's all divisional games at the end. The Saints get a crack at the Falcons. The Saints get a crack at the Bucks. So it's right there in front of all of them. The question is, for three volatile teams, which one drops the ball?
What they should know. That's what makes them scary. And can do it any kind of way. You got a great running back in B. John, right?
Yeah. He is.
So great young talent on that football team. And Drake London, and of course, about the Kyle Pitts. They got great young talent on that football team. It's scary. It's scary. You back up in Atlanta in the wrong way. They win this South. You got to go in and play Atlanta. That would be a scary proposition.
No one would fear Atlanta.
They don't know what they
Nobody.
They don't know they shouldn't even be here yet.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They don't know that they shouldn't be here.
Do they have a quarterback?
And
No.
I don't know if they have a quarterback of the future that they're going to move. But this kid can.
They only got the problem with them. No, they got
put the ball in the air now.
The problem with that though, they play one team at home in the next four, and that's the coach.
Yeah, the Falcons. That is the problem. And the Falcons, I would say, are probably the team schedule-wise looking on the outside because of the game in the Superdome. If we played the Bucks on the road and the Falcons on the road, I'd probably say the Saints, that's a bit of a tough ask. But having that game in the Dome is such an advantage for the Saints. Such an advantage. And Michael Irvin just did exactly what I tell people, or what I always say analysts do when they haven't really watched the team, where they just name the players. He just said basically his reasoning for liking the Falcons was they have Bijan Robinson, they have Drake London, they have Kyle Pitts, which we knew, we know what the roster is. So it blows my mind how much we see that on the mass sports media.
And the culture and the thick of things for their division.
And they just lost a home game to the Bucks.
But they beat the Bucks earlier by 3 points. It's a tighter game. It's a tighter game than the one they just lost. But they beat them earlier.
All right. I'm a big Baker fan, and it's not because he played at the school I grew up rooting for, Oklahoma. I just like the way he carries himself. I like his fire. It's the old baseball term. He's like a pepper pot. Like he's just
never heard pepper pot.
Fire, a lot of playmaking. He has been very clutch late in games. If you let him hang in the games like Atlanta did, and Atlanta self-destructed in some ways, Baker made a couple of big late throws.
The Bucks also are a team that has seen success. I mean, a lot of the players on that team were involved in the Super Bowl run. Even Baker, to an extent, has seen success, with the Browns when he kind of made his run. So in this situation, experience does matter. And being comfortable in those moments and in those must-win games and basically in a playoff game every single week, the Bucks, that experience is something I didn't think that would matter this season for the Buccaneers. But in this next stretch, it will matter. Will it matter in the playoffs? Probably not. Will it matter? But to basically say we have 4 consecutive playoff games, we have to win these 4 games in a row. This is, win or go home. Desmond Ridder doesn't know what that's like. Derek Carr doesn't know what that's like. None of the players on the Falcons know what that's like. But the Buccaneers, they're the most used to that kind of team.
At Atlanta that pulled the game out. Yet, I can't defend what has happened to Baker as he fell apart at Cleveland and then fell apart at Carolina. And you can make a strong case. This is the last stop. This is the last.
Maybe
if they fall
on their face
mask.
That's different video for different day.
Self-destruct down this stretch and they don't make it. I don't know what's going to happen to him because Tampa may want to go in a different direction. They want to draft somebody. They may want to just start fresh. They gave Baker the shot to replace Tom Brady, and Baker's played okay.
Yeah, he's
had his moments.
Yeah.
He's not had his moments. Sometimes he and Mike Evans are on the same page. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes he's clicking with Chris Godwin, and sometimes, almost inexplicably, he's not. This is it for Baker Mayfield, and it starts. It's an early game. It's the 1 o'clock game at Green Bay. The weather there is supposed to be pretty nice, like around 40 degrees, but no precipitation. So for this time of year, it's pretty decent football weather. So Baker's got to go up there against a team that just blew a game to the Giants they should not have blown.
Right.
And we're going to have Lil Wayne on talking about his Green Bay Packers, but it's got to start now for Baker. And I'm going to pick them, but I'm picking with my heart on this one because you make a strong case. The most solid.
I'm not going to lie, Skip's rambling. I was kind of in a daze right there. That was crazy. I was kind of like listening, and then I was kind of zoned out, and then I was like, oh, wait a minute, I'm on camera. Wait, there's a microphone in front of my face. Skip just lulled me into a dream.
Veteran football team is that one, obviously.
Yeah,
they know how to do this.
Yeah.
This team doesn't know how to do it, but it's the most talented young team by far.
Right,
by far.
right.
Like, even on defense, they lost a couple of guys to injuries, but they're off the charts in young talent because they've been so bad they just keep
The problem with the Bucs, though, Skip, is they go on the road, then they come right back and play Jacksonville.
They do.
See, Jacksonville, that's...
The Bucs, I mean, the thing with the Bucs that you got to envy right now is that they control their own destiny, like, in a very specific funnel. You know, beat Jacksonville, beat New Orleans. Like, right there, right in front of them. The Saints, they got to do a little bit more. They basically have to, win every game, obviously. But for the Bucs to be in the driver's seat, to be in first place right now, that is the ultimate control your own destiny. That's the ultimate. Look, we're here. We are right now. We are in the playoffs. We are the divisional champion right now. All we got to do now is take care of business. The Saints, obviously, they're sitting there. They're in third place, right? I understand it's a tie. I understand that things are going to move as you move forward. But just looking at this for a locker room is a lot. To look at this and say, all right, we are leading the race right now. We have 20% left. We got to win these games. Take it one game at a time. If we go 1-0 4 straight times, boom. Go to the playoffs. Win the division. Hang a banner.
That's the problem, because Jacksonville's a good football team trying to win their division and stay right in the hunt. Then they got the Saints.
At home, at Tampa, but still. Yeah, and by the way, Tom Brady had no luck against the Saints. They pretty much dominated Tom, except in a playoff game at New Orleans on the way to the...
Fun fact, that was the first night I moved to New Orleans. I moved to New Orleans. First night I stayed here was that game. Bucs in the Superdome in the playoffs.
Super Bowl.
And Baker went into New Orleans early in the year and played pretty good football.
Yeah, rolled us. Baker looked amazing in New Orleans. I was at that game. Baker he looked like prime Heisman winning Baker Mayfield in that game. So I don't think the Buccaneers fear the Saints at all going to Tampa.
Good. He's played pretty good football the whole year. Their defense is getting older, although Winfield is just like, he's first team All-Pro to me. He's the star of the defense. But they don't have much pass rush. All the stalwarts are starting to get beat up and get older. I just don't know. And if it's going to be debatable whether Baker makes it or Todd Bowles makes it to next year in Tampa. Both of them are kind of on their...
Yeah, they might move off both of them.
Last leg, so to speak.
Yeah.
I would move off Bowles before I moved off Baker. I think Baker's fine. Like, Baker's a good bridge quarterback. He'd make a good backup quarterback. I don't think Bowles can do it as a head coach. I know he can't. I know Bowles can't do it. So I think... But there's no way the Buccaneers are going to go with Bowles long term.
Joined at the hip right now on the hot seat. But the point is, I'm going to go with the Bucs. You're going with... You still like Atlanta?
I still like
Keyshawn's going to go with the Saints?
I recall our early days, when everybody was saying, I'm in a year away or 2 years away. Yeah. And I remember being in that locker room thinking about, man, they don't know how good we are. And because as a group, you know you're talented, and they're going to grow. And their connections will be better than the connections of these teams.
But the thing with the Falcons, they have cool name players, right? They have fun players, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. But how good are those players? Kyle Pitts is a cool name for a tight end prospect. He's a flashy name, but how impactful is he really? I would say almost not impactful at all. Same with Bijan. Bijan, people talk like he's Barry Sanders. and he may have a great future, but how impactful has Bijan been this season? The Buccaneers have Rachaad White. Rachaad White, I would guess, has probably been better than Bijan this year. But how many people would know that? If I said right now, ladies and gentlemen, go in the comments below. If I said who's been better this year, Bijan Robinson or Rachaad White, who would you say? Because all I've heard about is Bijan. All I've seen is his clips. All I've seen is how impressive he is. The media loves him, but how good is he? I'm not sure he's that impactful at all. I mean, well, let's actually compare. So here you go, Rachaad White this season. So he's got 745 yards on the ground, 5 touchdowns. Receiving, he's got 419 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. So he's got 7 touchdowns on the season, about a little over 1,100 yards. Bijan's got 790 on the ground, 4 touchdowns. Receiving, 320, 3 touchdowns. So Rachaad has more touchdowns, right? Rachaad has 7. It's the same. It's the same. So they both have 7 touchdowns. Yards-wise, about the same. They've been about the exact same impact player. I mean, I guess you could say Bijan has, better yards per carry, but then you could also say that Rachaad has been a better receiver. So this is kind of my point, though, where you hear a lot about Bijan, you hear a lot about these players, but how impactful really have they been?
I remember also being on that older team, and we were bringing people in, and we were saying, "Come on, man, let's go." I couldn't get them older guys to buy in to the we 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 years. Get on our wagon. Those older guys went buying, but those young guys will. I like what I said.
But see, Atlanta's problem though, the last 3 games though, Mike, they got to go to Chicago, which is freezing cold.
Yeah. Well, and Chicago's playing better. Like Justin Fields in Chicago, their defense especially is playing good. This is not the time to catch Chicago. If the Saints would have played this version of the Chicago Bears with how bad the Saints played in that game, probably would have lost. Chicago right now is feisty. I mean, I would not want to be playing Chicago down the stretch.
Obviously, right? They
that's a dome team. That's a dome team going to the cold. You're right.
But Atlanta's schedule is ranked the easiest, Keyshawn. It's
I don't know why.
30th.
I don't know why.
I don't know.
I don't know why, because if you go on the road against Chicago,
I would say it's the easiest because of how bad Chicago's numbers have been for the entire season, but that's not really telling the full story. And Indy is worse, I think, on the power ranking than Jacksonville and the Rams. So that's why the Atlanta has the easiest schedule as far as the metrics. But I think Chicago is playing much better than the underlying metrics would say.
Chicago, that's going to be tough,
especially on the road.
As Michael would say, a dome team, as if the Cowboys are not. But okay. And then you got the Saints on the road.
You do. Michael Irvin, the difference in 1992 was, what did Jerry Jones do for you in August of that camp year?
We got Charles Haley.
You went and got Charles Haley. Okay, so he wasn't a young dude at that point. He was established as a superstar.
Right. And that's as we were going into Super Bowl now. Those early years, we're going into Chicago. I just remember, one of those early years, I led the league in receiving, and Emmett led in rushing, and him driving home, saying, "Hey, man, we did." I said, "Man, we ain't do nothing yet, man. We got to do it again next year, man. We got to take it far." Like, I can imagine them dudes doing that now. And when you get on the field under that pretense, when we're young dudes, we're trying to prove ourselves in this league.
What is he talking about? Atlanta hasn't done anything. Bijan isn't leading the league in nothing. Drake London's not leading the league in nothing. The only thing Kyle Pitts is leading the league in is most games with 0 touchdowns. I mean, they don't do anything. So it's not like they're looking around like, man, we've got to really prove ourselves here. Their coach is on the hot seat. Their quarterback is a nobody. They're probably going to replace him. Like, they're a team kind of in flux. The Falcons, I think, are in the same place the Saints are in. Same place the Buccaneers are in. It's a team where some pieces are going to hang around. Some pieces are going to move forward. Some pieces are going to get replaced. I don't think the Falcons are any different roster-wise. I don't think they're any different motivation-wise or any of that stuff.
You have a greater bond than a bunch of old guys who are trying to keep it together.
Okay.
And that's why I say I go with Atlanta, because that's a greater bond that'll be on the football field as they go down the road.
The other point of order is, you had Troy and they have Desmond Ritter.
That's the kicker right there.
All right.
That's the kicker.
And the coach.
Right
And right now they don't have their first string.
And the coach. They have a coach who's probably about to get fired. Like, they have a coach that no one believes in. They have, I mean, it's a completely, comparing the young Dallas Cowboys to the Falcons is nuts.
They got a nice running back. They got some players, boy. If they get, and Ritter threw for a lot of yards now.
Yeah. No, he's been okay, but
a lot of yards,
up and down. He was not good
but
against
making
Tampa
it play
Bay.
when it counts, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a dome team, dog. We're not a dome.
Well, we had the roof open in September.
Yeah, right. You're a dome team.
Saying Ritter threw for a lot of yards, I mean, someone go in the comments and like let you know what? Let's just take a look. I mean, here you go. Like, Desmond Ritter is 21st in passing yards. He is just barely above Kirk Cousins, Joe Burrow, and Zach Wilson. I mean, how do people get away with just saying this? His average, I mean, he's got a 7.1 yard average. He's got 9 touchdowns, 9 picks. I mean, I just don't understand, like, how he throws for 198 yards a game. And we got people on big time shows saying, yeah, Desmond Ritter throws for a lot of yards. How is it possible? Zach Wilson throws for more yards a game than Desmond Ritter. It's crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comments below who's going to win the South. Who will win the NFC South? Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. I will see you in the next video.